Welcome to latest news blast. For months, quiet murmurs have echoed through the world of music, whispers that even Alicia Keys' radiant smile couldn't fully silence. Behind the grace, behind the poise, fans began to wonder if there was more to her calm than the cameras could capture. Rumors suggest that the woman whose voice has healed millions was silently fighting a battle of her own, one between love, loyalty, and self-preservation. And then, without warning, Alicia broke the silence. Not with a song, not with a headline-grabbing scandal, but with something far more powerful: honesty. In a heartfelt moment that left fans stunned, she opened her heart and confessed why she keeps forgiving her husband again and again. Her words weren't polished for press or filtered through a label's approval. They were raw, trembling, and painfully real. She didn't speak like the global superstar adored by millions. She spoke like a woman who has loved deeply, lost parts of herself in that love, and somehow found the strength to forgive, not once, but over and over again. And as she shared her truth, the internet listened, the world paused, and what started as whispers became a storm of emotion. Because this wasn't just about Alicia Keys and her marriage, it was about every person who's ever stayed when walking away would have been easier. Every heart that's chosen healing over pride, every soul that's learned that forgiveness isn't weakness, it's survival. For a long time, fans sensed that something was shifting behind Alicia Keys' serene glow. The smiles were still there, the music still beautiful, but there was a quiet heaviness beneath it all, a silence that spoke louder than any song. Reports claim that tension had been brewing for months, with subtle signs appearing in interviews and public moments where her usually effortless warmth seemed dimmed by exhaustion. People began to talk, not out of malice, but out of concern. Was something happening behind closed doors? Was the love story that once felt unshakable now being tested in ways no one could imagine? Rumors suggest that the couple's bond, once envied across the industry, had weathered challenges that even fame and fortune couldn't shield them from. And then came her voice, calm but heavy with truth. Alicia didn't dodge the whispers or try to silence them with a perfect smile. Instead, she leaned in and spoke directly to them. She admitted that forgiveness had become a central part of her life, not because she was weak, but because she refused to let bitterness define her. Her confession wasn't a headline. It was a release. Forgiveness, she said softly, isn't about pretending the pain didn't happen. It's about choosing peace when everything inside you wants revenge. Those words rippled across social media, within minutes, spreading like wildfire. Fans flooded the comments, calling her statement one of the most honest things they'd ever heard from a celebrity. In that moment, Alicia stopped being just an icon. She became a mirror, reflecting the quiet battles so many people fight behind closed doors, the heartbreaks that never make it into photos, the pain that lingers long after apologies fade. And as her words continued to echo online, one truth became clear. Alicia Keys wasn't just forgiving her husband, she was forgiving life itself, for not always being fair. But what she revealed next would take her confession even deeper, into the nights when the spotlight faded, and only the silence remained. When the lights fade and the applause dies down, most people imagine peace, a quiet moment of victory. But for Alicia Keys, those silent hours were often the hardest. Reports claim that after the curtain closed and the cameras stopped flashing, she would sit alone, surrounded by the same questions that fame could never answer. Questions about trust, love, and why forgiveness seemed to be the rhythm her heart knew best. She described nights when the glow of the stage lights still lingered on her skin, yet inside she felt cold. The world saw strength, the calm, unshakable Alicia Keys. But behind the music there were moments when even she wondered how much more her heart could take. Rumors suggest she battled the feeling of being both deeply loved and quietly broken, trying to make sense of how the same hands that once held her close could also leave invisible scars. It wasn't anger that consumed her, it was exhaustion. The kind that comes when love starts to feel like work, and forgiveness starts to feel like survival. She spoke about learning to sit with pain instead of hiding from it, realizing that healing doesn't happen under the spotlight, but in the dark corners of the soul where no one is watching. Fans online pointed out that many of her recent performances seemed to carry a heavier energy, her voice softer, her gaze distant, as if she were singing through something only she understood. And when she finally spoke about it, she admitted that silence had been her biggest mistake. "Keeping quiet," she said, "doesn't protect your heart, it only delays its healing." Those words struck millions, because in them was the unspoken truth of so many relationships. Sometimes what breaks us isn't the betrayal itself, but the pretending that everything is fine afterward. Alicia's honesty cut through the illusion, reminding people that even the strongest souls have breaking points. But this was only the beginning. Because after exposing her pain, Alicia revealed something far more powerful: how she turned that pain into purpose, and how forgiveness became the strongest act of rebellion she had ever chosen. After revealing the weight of her silence, Alicia Keys took a deep breath, not to gather strength but to release it. Her voice softened as she spoke about forgiveness, not as a fragile act of surrender, but as the purest form of power she's ever known. Rumors suggest that for years, she wrestled with the idea that forgiving meant excusing, that it made her small, submissive, or naive. But through tears and reflection, she discovered the opposite. Forgiveness was how she reclaimed control. "Forgiving someone," she said quietly, "doesn't mean they were right. It means I refuse to let what they did define me." Those words echoed through every corner of the internet, shared by fans, relationship experts, and even fellow artists who felt seen in her truth. She talked about the struggle between pride and peace, how easy it is to choose anger because it feels strong, and how hard it is to choose calm when your heart is bruised. Alicia admitted that some days, forgiveness felt like lifting a mountain. But the more she practiced it, the more she realized it wasn't about him anymore. It was about her sanity, her ability to wake up and not feel chained to yesterday. Reports claim that her husband, Swizz Beatz, had been by her side through public scrutiny and private storms, and that together they'd worked quietly to rebuild what fame had almost fractured. Yet Alicia made it clear, her forgiveness was not a gift to him. It was a promise to herself, a way of saying, "I won't let pain make me bitter." She also spoke about her children, her voice trembling as she explained why she chose love over resentment. "I want my kids to see that love isn't disposable," she said. "That people can fail each other and still find a way back." Those words resonated deeply with parents across the world, many of whom said they understood that struggle all too well. Social media, flooded with messages from fans saying her confession, had reminded them of their own journeys, the quiet strength it takes to forgive someone who hurt you, and the peace that comes only when you stop keeping score. But even as Alicia's words inspired millions, they also reignited old conversations online, whispers that had never fully disappeared. People began asking what had really happened behind closed doors, and whether this confession was her way of hinting at deeper wounds that had never fully healed. And just as the discussion reached its peak, Alicia revealed the moment that changed everything, the night she realized that silence would never save her, but truth might. As Alicia's words spread across the internet, so did the questions. The honesty that drew people closer also reignited whispers that had been buried for years. Reports claim that fans began revisiting old headlines, analyzing photos, interviews, and even lyrics, searching for clues about what had really happened in her marriage. Rumors suggest that the tension between Alicia and her husband, Swizz Beatz, had long been a quiet topic in fan circles, not confirmed, but constantly speculated. The whispers went back to the earliest days of their relationship, resurfacing every time a cryptic post appeared or a lyric hinted at heartbreak. And now, with Alicia speaking so openly about pain, forgiveness, and survival, those old stories gained new life. But Alicia didn't deny anything. She didn't defend, explain, or feed the gossip. Instead, she let her truth speak for itself. "Silence," she said, "never protected me. It only delayed my healing." That line became the heartbeat of her confession, a reminder that hiding pain only gives it more power. Still, people talked. Some said she was revealing more than she intended. Others believed this was her way of reclaiming her narrative. Reports claim that behind the scenes, Alicia and Swizz had sought counseling, determined to rebuild trust in private rather than let public judgment define them. Yet even in that privacy, the noise outside kept growing. Her fans rallied to her defense, praising her